Hey everyone, happy Wednesday and welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk about tabletop, video game dev, and all things Gundam. Hope everyone's having a good evening and a great week. Joining me, I'm Steven, and joining me as always is the effervescent Adam Blue. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, doing good, man. Glad to do this. Missed you last week. I thought I wasn't gonna be able to hold it together, but I did. But I feel comfortable now. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
glad you're back.
I'm back and I have no tan. No tan to speak of from my vacation to the beach, but yeah, hopefully everyone enjoyed the Gundam Explained podcast last week. It was a fun one. I'm glad that you had an opportunity to do some call-ins, and I hope that that's something that
Yeah,
we continue to do going forward.
yeah. I think we figured that out. We're getting better at this technology stuff.
Yeah,
The more we do
I
this.
would say so. I would say so. Um, so yeah, speaking of which, as I was out last week, I did upload a video to the Midnight Hatter channel. What if it's my first Gundam theory video? It's something I'm kind of diving into to explore different content avenues to see what people are interested in. If you haven't checked it out, hit up the YouTube channel and go check that out. What if Camille Badan was not crippled at the end of Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam? And sort of a hypothesis about where life would have taken him. And please leave as many nasty comments down in the down in the comments section below as you want, because that's what makes YouTube videos fun. So yeah, just a couple of housekeeping things. All of the links to the Gundam Explained YouTube channel, Gundam Explained podcast are in the description below. So definitely check out Adam's channel. Just had a video launch this morning. Your first thoughts about watching the totality of Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, or sorry, I guess it's New Mobile Report Gundam Wing is the title, but it's one of the animes that we all grew up on in the 90s, and this was your first viewing. So I don't want people to not watch your full in-depth review, but give us your, one sentence, 10,000 foot view of Gundam Wing.
Yeah, it was bad, but that made it good. I got to say that. There's it's very complicated, and I think I tried to detail as much as I can in the video, and even if you watch the video and some of it doesn't make sense, I'm sure there's so many people out there that know so much more about Wing. I do plan to revisit it often, do some deeper dives, but this is a good initial reaction of someone at my adult age that has avoided Wing since it was released and just recently got into UC. So hopefully it's
Well, and
interesting.
that's a good point, is that a lot of people who really enjoyed Gundam Wing were 13, 14 years old when they watched it. And, we look back on it with rose-tinted goggles, perhaps.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for a new viewer in 2022, does it hold up? I think that's a valid concern, because, for
Yeah.
instance, and we always default back to Star Wars Gundam comparisons, you and I
Yeah.
I am going to have no problem showing my daughter the original Star Wars trilogy, because
Oh
even
yeah.
after 50 years, it still holds up.
Yeah.
Robert, yes, I am wearing underwear on my head. That was something I had to take away from the beach because my hair has gotten out of control. I need to either moose it up or cut it off and be done with it.
Hey, I'm trying to go the not cut it off route. I'm right there with you. What is your plan? Do you think you want to kind of let it grow out
We'll see what
some
happens.
more?
It'll
Okay.
be interesting because, on vacation last week, I have a niece that is just under 2 years old. And let me tell you,
Mm.
children have a firm grip. And when she got a hold of a lock of my hair,
Mm.
there was no getting her off. And she was smiling, having a great time, and just like, ha ha ha. So, yeah, that was an experience for sure.
Well, yeah, I'm glad my youngest is 9 by the time I've been deciding to grow it out. This is the longest I've ever had my hair. Might not look like it. I had to gel it back, and the back is all a mess. I mean, I think sometimes in my videos or in some of our previous streams that you've had, I hide it with a hat.
Oh yeah,
But I'm not even really a hat guy.
I know.
It's just been recently.
I hate hats myself, so which kind of ironic for a YouTube channel name, right?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, where did Hatter come from anyway? Just like that Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, a little bit of a
Yeah,
Mad Hatter influence. It was an old gamer tag, which I think is like 90% of
that's cool.
YouTubers just use their old gamer tag as
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, let's see. We've got Unicorn is to UC what the prequels are to the original trilogy. Ouch, but probably true.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. I guess it depends what you think about the prequels, because I would agree with that, but I like the prequels.
yeah, and I do too. I think especially episode 1 and episode 3, love them.
Yeah. Hmm.
I think that the memes are fantastic. So,
Yeah.
you get better memes out of the prequels than you do out of the original trilogy. So there's something to be said there. And I would argue that you get a lot of delicious memes out of Gundam Unicorn as well. One of my personal
Yeah.
favorites is i- Alberto, I think is the character's name. There's a tea sipping scene in there that has become my go-to reaction,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
my Kermit
Yeah, I remember
reaction.
that scene. Yeah.
Personally, I see Wing as a Gundam series that uses storytelling of older medieval stories. I, that's an interesting way of looking at it, and I would like to see a
Hmm.
little further elaboration on that personally.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds pretty good. Oh, Rogue New Type.
Hey,
Good to see
what's
you.
up, Rogue New Type? That would
That's
explain
cool.
Leo's getting mass yeeted and the main cast and Zex being the way they are. Yeah, there's definitely an aspect of chivalry and knighthood that's conveyed throughout the series,
Hmm.
particularly in the main characters. And it's interesting. Wing is not my favorite series by any means, but it's probably in the top 10 somewhere.
Hmm. Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, so moving on to the topic of Gunpla and minis. I wish I had
Yeah.
something to share this week, but since I was out of town, I didn't do any building, I didn't do any painting, I didn't do any 3D modeling. So sorry, I am going to have to share any Gunpla and mini development with everyone next week. But Adam, I think you
Yeah.
have put together a lot of kits here in the last couple of weeks, which is
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? It's everyone that I've been talking to lately, on your channel and my channel, because people just like to build, and it's got me to get back into it, like even more, where I'm trying to enhance my technique. And so this I haven't really shared with the Gundam Explained community yet. So this is kind of a like a Midnight Hatter exclusive. But okay, that light is super bright, so I have to like pull it all the way back. Well, it's a sand rock, right? The high grade. It's the first time I built a kit, and this might sound bad, where I took my time. I bought the God hands. So
ooh.
when I was cutting it off the runner, I used my spare clippers, and I left a lot of plastic on there. Using the God hands, I was able to trim it down where there wasn't that stress. I can't believe the difference that it makes.
Oh
I
yeah.
really, I am going to do a video on the God hand, because I don't think people really ex- described the necessity in a manner that made me in the past 2 years get them. It was mainly people from our community grabbed it. Not only that, but then the sanding. And at first it seemed daunting, because there's different grit levels. And then so you have to kind of figure out how to get that down. And then sometimes when you sand, you see scratches and you're like, oh my God, what have I done? But then polishing helps. And then I realized, wow, it works. You get the God hands, you get the right sanding items. And yeah, this kit it completely nub free. It feels really good to build something like that and really take your time. And so that even got me to realize I can't be buying these kits like I have lately. I want to take my time with them. I keep them at my desk. You can't really see it, but over on my side here, I have my paints and my sanding stuff. So as like I'm going through work, or if I'm on like a meeting, I'll kind of go to the side. And like my favorite thing right now, let me see if I can find a good one. It might be hard to see because of the lighting, but the hazel hands require the red like the red paint on the fingers.
Yeah.
So it's been fun with the Gundam marker going in and just getting it right. Because that's a neat little feature you see on the hazels that you don't see on others.
That's true. The hands are a source of detail that often gets overlooked. And I'm guilty of it too. I mean, it's
Yeah, when I built my first hazel, and then I looked in the manual and I was like, man, the red fingers, I don't even paint. So, and then one I've been working on, I might have showed again that light. The light needs an autofocus, isn't that called exposure? But anyway, this is yeah, the standard hazel. And something was interesting when I was looking in the manual where it shows the colors. Some manuals don't do this of the P Bandis, but luckily this one did, even though it wasn't P Bandi, but it showed what colors to use. And when I looked at the panel lining, one thing I noticed that it doesn't do it as dark and animated look as sometimes they portray it. But in this, I noticed the panel lining was brown, even on the white/gray. And I didn't notice it at first until I looked really closely and I was like, wait a minute, it's using brown. So then I went back and put brown in the areas. And I got to say now, I think that's my new go-to. I was using gray on the white, but the brown, it's almost like it's giving it more of a shading instead of just a separate paneling. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like the paneling, but a shade of the panel.
It's more like a dirt or grime texture that you're not getting from just a standard black or gray.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's like the brown almost gives it that texture that would, yeah, that would be there. And so yeah, so that's been my fun with Gunpla this week. And so I'm just another thing, and I'll be short. I just got this Tamiya color clear lacquer top coat. I've been trying them the past 2 weeks, a bunch of different top coats from a bunch of different brands. And
what finish is that one? Because we've talked about finishes before, and you were saying that you kind of are steering a little bit more towards the gloss coats, or is this another matte coat?
So this one is a gloss, even though it just says clear, but it's TS13 is the specific name. When I was doing research on it, that's kind of a glossy look. So then I also got the matte because I still want to get the matte look down, because my Ground Gundam, at the end of the day, that had the best matte look, and that was done with the Mr. Super Clear. The Krylon matte didn't look good, although in Texas with the heat and humidity, that could have been part of it.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I noticed that too, even with the gloss. I went back with the same gloss top coat, being more mindful of the day I was doing it, and it turned out a lot better. Actually, I don't remember if I showed you or others. So this was one I worked on where I put a matte coat on it, and
Titans
it just
colors.
looked odd. Oh, me too. But the matte finish I had made mine look like it was frosting. So I went back with a gloss coat, and it got rid of it. And I might matte it again, but I guess what I learned, what I'm glad about, is I did a gloss coat, then I did a matte coat that looked frosty, and it didn't look good. So then I just hit it with a gloss again, and it looks great. And actually, that gloss was Rust-Oleum.
Oh, nice. Which is funny because that's the one that I don't recommend. It's the Rust-Oleum.
But you're showing the matte enamel. I think mine was the gloss acrylic.
I think that's probably it. Is the enamel? Stay away from the Rust-Oleum enamel, because especially if you have used acrylic paints.
On it. Yeah, I think that's what Speaking of paint, again, I'm gonna stop soon. I keep going off, but like the hardest thing for me to paint is, I can't even show it on the camera. It's the little that yellow crest, the V crest that's usually on the crotch of a Earth Federation suit.
Right, because it's kind of nestled in a pocket that it's not easily accessible, and the stickers on it just look terrible. Like if you've ever had a kit that comes with those stickers that goes in that little divot, they always look awful.
I used first I went over with paint, even if it went on the red, then I cleaned it up with the alcohol, and then I went back with a toothpick to touch up the areas that the alcohol picked up on. So I'm learning a lot of interesting techniques.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Now, one thing that you're probably not at this, I guess, I don't want to say like, oh, sensei, let me show you what's at the next level of Gunpla, but
no, I'm all ears.
No, as far as like the next stage of Gunpla customization, talking about things like weathering, and you and I have talked about the Tamiya weathering kits in the past. They're almost like little makeup like
Yeah.
containers that you just use a little sponge brush and you can brush on. One of the things that
Yeah.
I have learned from a fellow YouTuber, Gunpla, which if you haven't checked out his channel,
Oh,
he's fantastic. Non-English speaking, so definitely watch with the closed captioning on if you are an English speaker. But he has patented a technique called finger brushing, where what he uses are pastels, and he kind of has the oils from his hands he rubs on pastel crayons and then brushes onto the kit directly. And not only does it generate really great results, I've used it a couple of times, once on my hand painted Zaku 2, which you probably can't see some of the weathering that's been done on it. It's very mild. I don't like a heavily weathered, gritty,
I know what you mean.
muddy kit. I use it mostly for gradients and shading and things like that, but it's really not only does it give good results, but it gives you this tactile sensation of operating on the kit that using a brush or using, even like a sponge or something like that just doesn't give you. It is messy, but I think that it's pretty cool. So I highly recommend everyone try it at least once with a kit. Maybe if it's not a kit you are in love with, but I definitely recommend trying it.
Sometimes it's easy to clean up, and I think I learned that accidentally but in the past when I was using, the ink, I use the
Oh yeah,
the
panel
the little
lining
ink, and I'll sometimes get it to spill, and I'll go to try to smear it off with my thumb, and I'm like, wait a minute, that looks like some wear, some dirt, and then I kind of learned that way I can kind of do that around the parts of it, and so. And speaking of panel lining, I see Ian Hansen's in the house. He was just recently showing off some kits because he's just gotten into the panel lining as well. Different methods with the pen, the ink. He ordered one of those, I think. So, yeah, it's really cool. Just recently, even though I've been in the Gundam, and I think the other day on the Discord they were sharing. Someone was sharing your playlist of Gunpla tips, building tips, because I think it's really cool how a lot of us have come together that didn't have these techniques, but then like you and some others have been like sharing with us, and it's really upped all of our game. So
yeah, it's something that I enjoy sharing my experiences. I definitely have blown it in the past. Like I said, I hold the record for the highest ratioed Gunpla video on YouTube. I've privated that video. You can't watch it anymore because I'm still in the middle of my redemption arc for that one. But
it's hilarious.
I think that's part of the fun, is the experimentation, the finding things that work, especially, it's a hobby, it's a craft. People like to, there's no one right way to do everything. So
yeah, that is completely true. And then Rogue New Type was saying he uses the clear coat of that brand for sealing water slides. So I don't know if Rogue, you're talking about the Tommy or the Rust-Oleum, but I think that's now the thing you got to do is use a top coat to seal those stickers, those decals.
Absolutely, because especially, water slides will come right off, especially if you don't use like a setting solution.
I remember one time, I forget what I was doing. I always sit cross-legged in my chair. It's kind of weird. And then I was just looking at my knee and I saw a water slide. And I'm like, what kit is this from? What's missing the water slide? Where? Or sometimes, I'll like itch my finger and then look down and realize there's water slides on my hands. And I'm like, oh no, what kit was this for that I messed up the stickers? Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's nightmare fuel for sure. All right. Well, let's see. As far as tabletop news, I don't have any new Gundam 5e updates. Sorry, I'm still working on things like digital tools, enemy codex, and warships. So those are kind of in the works. But I do have some news about, sort of a sister channel of mine, RiverQuest Games. I've mentioned them before in the past. I will be participating in a new tabletop podcast that is launching here soon. I don't have an exact date on it, but I will keep everybody informed, and I'll post about it in the Discord. we're going to be running through a homebrew D&D setting, so that's going to be cool. Um, Adam, one of these days I'm going to have to get you, at a table, and we're going to have to roll some dice together,
Yeah.
because I know that your D&D experience is limited, but I
Yeah.
think that you would have a lot of fun with it.
I think so. The storytelling, the creativity. Robert talks about it a lot in the chat. So sometimes and did I tell you I played a game once?
Yes. This was
Okay,
some
and it
time
was
ago,
where
though.
yeah, it was many years ago. I was in a band, and the guitarist and I was drumming, and I knew he painted minis, and he invited me over one time to play a game with his friends, and his friends were really cool. And I just remember it was interesting for me because I was a new character, so like no one trusted me. And I was like, in my head, I was like, why are these people acting like this? But then I was like, wait, this is part of the game, the experience, like, and yeah, it was pretty cool. And I feel bad because then I never continued. So like this one character showed up one day and then never showed up again.
But you
So
know what? That's life, right? Like sometimes you meet someone
yeah,
and you have a fantastic
that's right.
conversation at a Starbucks or whatever, and then you never talk to them again. um,
Yeah, that is completely true. Even if like you're excited about meeting them or exchanging numbers, be like, hey, we'll talk again later, and then it never happens. I guess it's just how it is. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And so my first experience with Dungeons and Dragons was in college, which I'm sure a lot of people have a similar story. I was living with a guy named Eddie. I swear this isn't straight out of Stranger Things. I legitimately have a friend named Eddie. He was an art student and I was a writing student, and we often partnered together on like creative stuff. I'd do the writing, he does the drawing. And he had invited me to a game that a friend of ours was running, and I fell in love with it because it, like you said, it merges that storytelling with gamification that's just, I think innately people love to play games, which is something that I kind of picked up on while I was on vacation last week. My little nephew, you know everything to him he wanted to make into a game. We hop in the pool and he's like, all right, it's a race between, me and Uncle Steve, and, he's got to get to the end of the pool, but I'm going to go halfway and then back because I'm younger, and, but you get disqualified if you touch the bottom. And so there's something deeply ingrained, I think, in human beings, that we love competition, and we love being bound by rules, and we love being bound by like I said, order.
That
Yeah.
moves us forward. And you bring up a good point because I've always thought that same thing. And my first thought also was competition. And I don't think it's competition, but I think some people lean into the competition aspect. Because for me, I've realized I like this stuff too. And I realized not only do I like playing a lot of single player games because I'm not competing with someone, but not, it's just in the single player, I'm not competing. And I really like that. Also, when it comes to like personal development or work or something, you want to like strategize or create like bullet points or lists, and you're almost gaming it for
Yeah.
yourself. So I really think there is something there that and it's like that order too. You're giving yourself order and you're doing it like a checklist type thing. And yeah, humans for some reason, maybe when the aliens designed us, they programmed us to work all the time. But yeah, uh, something about us, yeah, we and that's the thing. Sometimes we don't realize we want order, or sometimes we fight against the order. But once we are comfortable with the change that the order brings, we then excel when we follow that order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it, you definitely articulated it a lot better than I did, but I think that a lot of it is the format of the structure that we're being compelled to participate in. A lot of people,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily that they want to dictate their own structure, but they want to adhere to a structure that they enjoy. So like you said, I am
Yeah.
a single player kind of guy. In particular, I love co-op games as well. I love a game that I can sit down with my wife and do a co-op campaign with.
Yeah.
The original Halo game.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
That's a good one.
that's a fantastic game for anyone who wants to do some couch co-op. And I miss a decent couch co-op game. That's like,
Well, hey, tomorrow or the 16th for those that aren't listening on the time we're recording this, is that Shredder's Revenge, and that's multiplayer,
Yes.
the new Ninja Turtle. I'm totally getting that.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I love it. Which, I think is going to dovetail nicely into the topic du jour. What we originally are getting together here to talk about is Gacha, short for Gachapon games. Everyone is familiar with a good Gacha game, and I thought it would be a good topic for us to discuss in terms both as gamers and as game developers. What is a gacha? What makes a good gacha? What makes a bad gacha? Is there a way to incorporate gacha elements into a game that are not malicious, that are not profit hungry, things like that? And the reason that I bring this up is because, again, as I've mentioned several times now, I was on vacation last week, and as one of the ways of bonding with my young nephew, he had an iPad that he was just basically glued to the whole time. And I was like, well, hey, I've got this game on my iPad, Bleach Brave Souls, which is a gacha game. I would define it as a gacha game. And
I like that it says Souls in it. It would draw me in. Is this a Souls-like?
Yeah, right. Well, and I was a big fan of the Bleach anime back in high school, which, this community that we're building is just slowly dragging me back into anime, even though I'm well into my 30s here. I'm definitely, when people ask me like, hey, what's your favorite anime? I'm like, I don't watch anime. I just watch Gundam. But, here I am, and I'm playing Bleach Brave Souls on my iPad for my nephew. This, I would say, is 100% a gacha game, because the way I would define a gacha is a game whose core gameplay mechanic is not necessarily the game, but more the collecting aspect that goes with it. This game, in much the similar way as many other games that are out there, especially mobile games, you can set the gameplay to auto and just let the characters do their thing and win, But the real joy of the game comes from when you unlock your favorite characters, and when you level them up, and when you unlock even more powerful versions of your favorite characters and things like that. It's almost like a card collecting game at that point. So...
Yeah, and I just want to say real quick, Callus Wolf, you're already into anime. You watch Zeta Gundam, and I just gotta laugh because he spelled Gundam D-U-M-B. That is hilarious. Oh, and then Ian is saying Bleach returns in the fall. So Bleach, being someone that regularly didn't watch anime, I've always heard of Bleach.
Bleach,
even though I didn't know what it was. So is that something that's you would, for 30-year-olds, still enjoyable?
Yeah, I would still recommend the first couple of seasons. I really enjoyed it. It's got this unique aspect that has, I guess the appeal is kind of like, did you ever watch the Kill Bill movies?
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
hey, thanks for the subscription, Jack.
Oh.
So yeah, if you've watched Kill Bill, you're familiar with like the way that the movies are sculpted in a way where the villains are almost like lieutenants or like mini bosses, like in a video game. And that's the same way that Bleach is for the first couple of seasons, when you're introduced to the main character, and there's this sort of isekai element where he's thrown into a world where it's like, oh, the main character's dead, and he becomes what they call a soul reaper. And what a soul reaper does is protect humans from undead souls that are violent and cruel, called hollows. So he goes to...
That's sounding like Dark Souls.
Right?
Hollow?
Yeah. So he goes to the Soul Society, and he finds that there's this whole army of Soul Reapers, and they have 13 squads of Soul Reapers that have 13 captains and 13 lieutenants. And each of the captains and lieutenants has these boisterous personalities. They're all extremely, magnetic characters. They're very charismatic. And it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, who would win if the captain of fourth squad fought the captain of seventh squad? And like, well, but what if they're lieutenants? It invites that kind of comparison, and it's one of those shows that I think, you know, even the creator of the manga, I believe, once said, you know, he didn't really have a story in mind when he created all of these characters. He just wanted to draw cool people with swords,
Oh,
and he had to come up with a
that's cool.
story to cram in all these cool people with swords.
I like that.
So it's pretty sweet. And it lends itself very well to a gacha game like this, because, you know, you've got these 13 squads. Each squad has a captain, each squad has a lieutenant, and each one has different periods in their lives over hundreds of years. So yeah, now
I think I'm gonna just get to downloading that right now just to take a look at it.
it's a good time to download it because they give you a lot of free stuff, like right out of the gate. You get like a level 200 6-star character that can just mollywop everything. So it's very easy to level up in the early game, which is pretty awesome. But
in what? Wait, is it on Android?
I believe it is. Should be.
And it's called Bleach. Something Souls. What was that
Bleach
again?
Brave Souls. Yeah, it is
Okay.
on the Google Play Store. Or if
yeah.
you want to download it on your PS5, it's available on PS5 too.
Oh, interesting.
So there's that option as well.
Interesting that they're doing that. It's just like another gacha that Genshin Impact. That's also mobile and PlayStation.
Yeah. So, and you know, sort of bringing it back around to Gundam, one example of a Gundam gacha is, of course, Gundam Breaker Mobile, which, of course, everyone here is familiar with. That's another game where you can set the gameplay to be all by itself. You know, you don't even necessarily have to play the game if you don't want to. You can use those skip tickets, and it's like, I just want to skip ahead and get to where I unlock more parts for my Gundam.
Which is a very interesting thing that could be based on age, culture, or something. When I first experienced this is with another gacha game. It's the Star Wars Galaxies or Star Wars Galaxy at War. It was the mobile game where it was the turn-based, and then you would randomly get things to unlock random characters. Yep. And then I just remember when I would play, I'm trying to like, okay, what should be the strategy here? But then I noticed there's an autoplay, and I'm like, well, why is there an autoplay if I need to strategize? And it's like, do I even is this game requiring me to learn a game? And then it's really people want to collect Star Wars characters.
They do.
You know, and then I noticed the same thing with Gundam Breaker Mobile. I remember when I first played it, I couldn't get into it because I was like, it doesn't seem like you need to strategize in the combat. Oh. I decided to come back later because I was like, well, I wouldn't mind collecting some pieces and building a Gundam. But then I realized I spent most of my time on the screens that were getting the pieces, upgrading pieces, and then figuring out where I should put my money next, you know, like to unlock stuff. Yeah,
there's like this weird lotto feeling of it. You know, you feel like you're at a slot machine and you're like, well, if I win $100 on this slot machine, then I might reinvest it into these other 5 slot machines and that sort of thing, which is it is a predatory practice because, you know, myself, I am a collector. You know, if I was in the Marvel universe, I'd be that guy, you know, beautiful beyond compare. So I have this innate desire, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, that, you know, you want to complete a set, right? You don't want to have you don't want to have the 4 Gundams from Gundam Wing and not have Gundam Shenlong, right? Like
that's if you don't mind me moving off from Gundam Breaker Mobile, that's what comes up in GBO2, which is a little different because the gameplay, it's about the gameplay.
Exactly.
In this sense. So I would play, and then when I was done, I was like, okay, what is the progression system in this, right? And there's a progression system, and I think it's pretty good. But then I was like, well, I want a certain mobile suit. And there's no guarantee. Well, there kind of is
sometimes,
but generally, there's no guarantee that you're going to get the mobile suit you want. And a lot of times they'll do it where again, you have to spend the coins you get from playing, but then there's these certain levels, like, spend the coins to see you get a 10% chance of getting this mobile suit. And then it's like if you've played it by the fifth time, it's like MS guaranteed, but that would have cost you maybe $120 to get that far. So I remember at first, and that's funny. So out of any game that has like a gotcha implementation, that's the one that I've spent the most time in because it's about the gameplay. And even though I don't get it's weird because you still get a lot of stuff. Even if you don't get the suit you want, you still get a lot of
You do.
stuff. And then you'll even get suits that you never would have maybe even tried or known about. I think GBO2 did a good job of giving me the names of all these different side story mobile suits that I don't know how I would have come across any other way. Um, so, and then in a way that affects the gameplay.
Yeah.
So because I'm getting a specific suit that I didn't plan to use, I'm then having to learn the move set or the weapons of something I didn't plan to. But then I'm like, oh, okay, I've learned a new way of playing because this suit plays in this way. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I 100% agree with that. And, while it does have that random loot box gotcha element, whatever you want to call it, and, I don't want to, I don't want to dive into the discussion about microtransactions and things like that, because that's a different sort of topic altogether. Yeah. A lot of these games, you don't even have to spend a dime, but, you're invested in them for the collection aspect. But what sets Gundam Battle Operation 2 apart, like you said, is that the gameplay is the core appeal of the game. And I too, I never appreciated the Act Zaku as much as I have since I unlocked it in GBO2. And
cool.
now it's my go-to, 400 level mobile suit to use. But the appeal of the game is to actually play matches. You don't want to just sit there and collect digital cards, so to speak.
Yeah, and sometimes it's interesting. Not only is this Gundam game free to play, but its origin is in a country or in a culture where gacha is sort of part of gaming already.
Mm-hmm.
So like when Star Wars Battlefront 2, the 2017 or 18 one, I forget which one, the newer one that EA made. When it first came out, it was loot boxes. And I think sometimes people will say loot box or gotcha interchangeably, but in the Star Wars game, you would get credits you'd have to spend to get a loot box. And you were just hoping in the loot box you would get Darth Vader or something. And there was a lot of backlash on that. So much so that I would say that out of any game that has ever existed, maybe up there with No Man's Sky, that Star Wars Battlefront 2 had the biggest comeback of its actual gameplay, because not only did they add content and fix and tweak gameplay, but they totally revamped the system where it was easy to unlock all the characters. And then they just started adding then skins that you can get if you complete challenges. So it's interesting that they were willing to completely change the system because of that. And then you think it's interesting how people are speaking up and they're listening. I find that interesting because it's that's the people making the decision, right? Whereas in some countries, it's the government that makes the decision. So like Diablo Immortal, which has that sort of system in place. And to be honest, I don't know how gotcha it is. I know that you have to pay a lot in that new Diablo Immortal. I don't know how randomized it is though, but like in some countries that game is banned because of that system. So that's another interesting aspect of this in general is you can see there's backlash people have. And you even brought up how sometimes it's predatory because people just want to collect things.
Yeah.
So it seems like we're teetering on this fine line of using gotcha in games. So do you have an example of a game that's gotcha, it's successful and people don't complain?
I can't think of an example off the top of my head where it's strictly a gotcha game, but people don't complain about it. One of the things that I would say that Bleach Brave Souls does well is they, so every character has, a 1-star version, a 2-star version, a 3-star version. They have different rarities associated with their star level. And the most powerful versions are 6-star characters, right? But if you unlock a 5-star character, if you accumulate enough resources in the game, you can level that 5-star character into a 6-star character.
Mm.
So what I like about that is that you don't feel like you are boxed in, and you're not limited to, I'm never going to get the top tier version of my favorite character. If you unlock that 5-star version of your favorite character, you can level them up through gameplay into that 6-star version. And I think that that's something that that GBO2 does well as well. You know, if you get if you get a mobile suit that maybe isn't that great to start with, the more you play with it and the more you put it in the hangar and level it up, you
Mm.
can actually make it that top tier mobile suit that you want. And I think that that is a sign of a sort of healthy gacha that isn't preying on the natural impulse to want to get your favorite character or your favorite unit or whatever in the most powerful form. As long as you get your favorite character or your favorite unit, you can ascend to whatever skill level or whatever tier you want to from there.
Yeah, and it seems interesting because it's, that made me think about it even more, because with microtransactions, it's almost like they're nickeling and diming just for you to get something. It's like, you can have this, but you have to pay.
Yeah.
With the gotcha, I think that barrier or that cost of entry is probably lower, and you're guaranteed to get something, but you're not guaranteed to get what you're actually wanting or expecting to do.
True.
Um, so I think it's very interesting. It makes me wonder if gotcha is just gonna stay because it has sort of, that's more of a game than a microtransaction.
Yeah.
Because the gotcha, there's kind of fun in the randomness, because I think there are probably a large group of people that kind of don't care what they're getting. It's, well, I can't wait to spin today and see what things I get. Whereas if that was strictly microtransactions, you might go to the store and be like, no, nothing I need.
Yeah.
So it's
I think
interesting.
that that's a very good distinction to draw, is that if it's paywalled, if it's 100% transactional, then people definitely want to get what they want as opposed to just getting a random draw. Whereas if it's something that if it's a currency that you can earn in game, then I see no reason, and I don't see any harm necessarily in it being a random pull. Is that kind of where you're at?
Yeah. Yeah, I got to say, because I've put more time into GBO2 than I have money into microtransactions of any game. And I think maybe then at the end of the day, and I have spent money on GBO2, but just not a lot. I have only once bought a pack of like 60 coins, I think, and I didn't even get what I was hoping. But it is interesting that I've probably put, more time into GBO2 than I have in of money in microtransactions. Now, sometimes there's games that come out with expansions or DLC. I don't necessarily consider that a microtransaction. I consider that add-on content. A lot of times,
I
I
agree with
think
that.
Rebellion, and the latest one I can think of is that Zombie Army 4. I really love those games. Same people as Sniper Elite, so it plays the same pretty much. But they're constantly having huge maps come out and with skins, and I usually wait for a sale and then I'll buy them. And I think I've gotten my uh uh games worth out of that. So yeah, it is interesting. There is a distinction.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like you said, when DLC, that's like getting something that you are specifically paying for, and I think that some of the Resident Evil games do a really good job of that, because there are certain criteria that you have to hit in the new Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, in order to unlock certain skins or to unlock certain characters and stuff like that. There is a DLC option that's just like, hey, if you either don't want to play the game, or you just, if it's too difficult for you to play the game to unlock these things, throw $15 our way and we'll unlock them for you.
Yeah, I don't know. I really think that should be an option because I think nowadays, when it comes to people that play games, there are two very distinct types of people. There are people that that's their game.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are people that just casually jump in, right?
Sure.
I wish GBO2 had like some paid version, maybe. Hey, digital deluxe, $70 that guarantees the suit that comes out every Wednesday.
Yeah.
If you play the gacha, but it guarantees that you get the suit. I would. I don't know if that would change my playstyle because I might not be playing random suits, but I want the Hazel so bad, and there's two of them,
Yeah.
and I haven't even got them. But I've been able to get the other ones I've wanted, like the Zeta, the Double Zeta, the Biarlant, the there's a
That's
bunch of
so
others.
funny because I want the Zeta so bad and I just cannot get it.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, because it's been a while too.
Yeah.
Um, but did you? Let me ask you: did you play the single player missions that came out that you can use the Zeta for
I
when they
I
did that?
didn't. At the time I was like, I'm not gonna play single player. I'm gonna do my dailies. I'm gonna play the verse matches and stuff.
Yeah, it's cool though. Those missions actually do give you coins and parts, which is pretty cool. I haven't done it lately, but they would have missions like one was you fight the Psycho Gundam as like I think it's when the Double Zeta first came out, and you could fight the Psycho Gundam Mark II,
Yeah.
I think.
I
Or not.
did do this
And
the
then
double Zeta ones, yeah.
oh okay, and then they had one with the Alpha Zero, um, and I think that was one with I forget maybe when the moon came out. I forget. I just know at least they let you play the suits if you want to.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's a cool
well,
option.
for some,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
definitely I like that they offer that for some of the bigger named suits like that.
yeah,
Um but yeah, I'm with you.
yeah.
You know, I would gladly, pay a 60 or $70 upfront price if I were able to unlock a particular suit that I wanted.
Yeah, and you know what? This is very interesting. I let me combine the microtransactions and the gotcha. Looking at Halo Infinite, as much as I think that has amazing gameplay, like the best FPS gameplay, I love it. They totally messed up the content.
Did they?
Very little is there. I played it like crazy when it first came out, so that could have been me playing it too much. But after a while, I was like, no new maps. Big team battle went down for a while, and that's like my favorite mode. So what they do is they have a store that you buy stuff, or they have a battle pass type thing that, or season pass, whatever you call it, that depending on how much XP you get, you unlock the next thing. Now, XP, you only get XP from doing challenges. Okay. And a lot of times the challenges are like try to get 5 kills with this gun or try to kill the person with the
I
flag.
like that.
They're almost like challenges that actually might go against what the group is trying to do to win a game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes it gets in the way. And so then what happens is you can only move forward if you complete challenges. Some challenges you can't complete, but some of the rewards you get from Halo's Battle Pass are challenge swaps that
Oh.
it randomly gives you a new challenge. Now, I think that's predatory because they're charging you to then have to do challenges to unlock stuff, but then if you can't do it, I guess some of the things you pay for are to swap the challenge. And those are like you'll see like, oh, you get an armor piece, oh, you get XP, oh, you get a challenge swap. It's like I don't want to win a challenge swap. I want to get XP from playing now they did patch in that you get XP from winning a match. That used to not be the case. They should give you XP for every time you get a kill, every time you score,
Even
but
if it's a
they make
small
it based
amount,
on challenges.
you know.
Yeah, and they've added, but the game should be around that and not about random. So this is where the random comes in, random challenges, because it's almost like you have to do something that's randomized in order to then get what you want, and that one could be get 5 sniper headshots. There could be a player that is not good at sniping, so then they have to wait until they get a challenge swap to swap that out. And I don't like that. If you go to the Halo subreddit, for instance, a lot of people are complaining. I personally, it's not that I need to be unlocking a bunch of stuff. they just don't have a career progression system. There's no rank
No.
for your Halo character. They totally botched. They completely catered to that audience, the loot box audience. So,
And I'm seeing in the chat both Kalos and that shirt dude are talking about how awful Halo's store is, how the progression system is not great, especially considering previous games had such a cool, you
yeah.
had you already had a perfect character leveling system in the previous Halo Online games. So
And what's interesting about Halo 5, it had more of a gacha system because you would get something that are called rec packs.
yeah,
And when you open it, you don't know what it could be. It could be skin. So that was completely gacha, but it was a layer on top of already getting progression for your character and unlocking the helmets and all that. So it's like it's weird how Halo had a better and even more acceptable modern way of going about it, but this they totally jumped into the Call of Duty Fortnite like, but without even really figuring out. Because I will say, and I don't know if a lot of people our age play it, but Fortnite, I've played it a lot and I've actually enjoyed it, especially with the kids. And it, even though it seems like it's predatory in a way, it there's so much you can do and unlock. You can even earn the battle pass,
yeah.
and it gives you things you can unlock. I think, and maybe Fortnite can afford. Epic is so big they can probably afford to have all this content, because they have a large player base. So
True. This is very true. And it's funny you mentioned like the challenge system, because that's something that is sort of it exists in Bleach Brave Souls, but in a very less impactful way, because the challenges are supplementary to the core character growth. So the core player and character growth, you can play through the story missions and that will earn you tokens or whatever, but you also have the ability to, well, if you go into a mission using this particular class of character, you'll earn certain points. And if you
oh,
play 3 of these type of raid missions, you'll earn certain points. So you do have that challenge aspect there, but not only is it more accessible, like you said, some players are just
yeah,
not necessarily cut out to do what
certain
the
challenge.
challenge
Yeah.
is, but it's also sort of optional. Oh, thanks for
Yeah.
following.
Oh, you know what? I want to bring up something Kalos Wolf said also that I think is a good point that Halo Infinite does is once you buy a battle pass, if it goes to the next season, you can actually still work on previous season passes or battle passes, which most games don't do that.
True.
I even, Call of Duty, it even with its battle pass system is actually pretty fun. There's a lot of content to unlock. But if you're moving on to the next season, you've missed some of what was previous. So it's interesting that I think developers or maybe it's publishers really need to come up with concessions that hey, we're trying to milk you, but maybe here's some more fun way to go about it. Here's some more gamification to that.
Yeah, I think that
You know,
that's and as much as I personally haven't gotten into Fortnite or Call of Duty as much, I do understand and appreciate the sort of battle pass model, and the sort of attempt to keep players coming back,
mm-hmm.
um but at the same time, what makes them not gotcha games by definition is that the gameplay is still appealing, and there's
Yeah,
still something there for you if you don't shell out cash, or even if you don't, you can play Call of Duty or Fortnite without unlocking anything if you don't want to.
yeah. And you know what? I think what you said brings up a good point because I think then what makes people angry at a game like Halo is that it's about the game.
Hmm.
So when there's elements of randomness thrown in, like with the challenge swaps, I think that's when people are like, okay, why does this have to be here?
Yeah.
You know, uh, yeah, I don't know, because that affects the gameplay because you don't know what challenge you're gonna get. I mean, if you're working on a battle pass, you paid for the battle pass, you have to do the challenges. They're completely random. So it's interesting thinking about this now as I'm talking to you, is that how they've tried to make it not look like Gacha, but it actually is.
Yeah.
Um,
And so where I'm at as far as like being a game developer and being someone who wants to create things for people to play, is there an ethical way? Is there not is there an accessible way to create a content delivery system, if you will, that allows players to play and unlock content for free that they would also be able to purchase? Or, what would be the perfect model in your eyes for a system of unlocking additional content based on either your performance or dollars spent in game?
I think, I think for one, the performance part of it's really about the gameplay. The thing about, depending on what the gameplay is, getting a kill, objectives based, like stuff like that. But then I also see there not being a problem if someone wants to pay past that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say they want a certain helmet or something. I mean, if it's available to buy, I see no problem with that. But I also think they should be available by the time you put in the game, because retention. I don't think sometimes publishers realize retention is a bigger deal than how much they're charging for things.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time. I feel like sometimes publishers don't understand this, or they just want that kind of that short term gain. I mean, I think Fortnite has the retention it does because it's so easy to play and they give you a lot of stuff and you can kind of choose how to play it. You can buy your way through a battle pass or just play it, and you can get enough, I forget the currency, V-Bucks to buy the next battle pass just from playing the battle
Yeah.
pass. Or playing the game. So I will say, let's see, what's a successful game right now? I mean, I would say almost GBO2. It's lasted so long. They're constantly, I would have to say, putting money into it because they're coming up with new content all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I almost think that's a good way to go about it, because how many games do you know of that are competitive online, shooters, even though this is more tactical than that, have so many different almost classes to choose from?
True.
Character, I mean, like it's almost like a character-based shooter if you think about how you have a singular character that has so much variation to it compared to others.
Yeah.
Like, how many suits are in GBO2? It's over 200, right? I don't know
At
what
this
the
point, it's got to be. And
yeah,
you get
and
more variety than you would from like a hero shooter like Overwatch, because a lot of the
yeah.
characters from Overwatch are just reskinned versions of other characters. And so, you maybe have like 7 to 10 core classes, but they kind of get recycled, right?
And so I think, I think GBO2 is obviously popular. This is 4 years later that they're porting it to PC.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly putting money into it. It is free to play, but you don't have to pay, and you can unlock so much content.
True.
But you can pay and get exactly what you want. I think that's a model that works, but that requires um yeah, I don't know. I would like to see Halo with that sort of thing, because instead of then different mobile suits, you're actually unlocking, different armor elements. Although, what's interesting, the mobile suits you unlock are completely different gameplay elements that change the game, whereas armor in Halo doesn't.
True.
I don't know. I don't. I I feel like the industry has gone so long where nickeling and diming wasn't a necessity, and you always hear about issues with game companies having bloated budgets.
Yep.
Ubisoft was trying to position itself for a sale, but it had too many employees. They were spending too much money on stuff. So I think we're in a spot where the way these things are working are not long term. Epic can do it because it's loaded with cash.
Right.
But and it's backed by a giant Chinese company.
But how long will that last?
I think something like Epic can last, but I think the other publishers have to be able to come up with a system first. I think Man, how do I explain? Like Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Look how much time you could put into Elden Ring, and you buy it once. They'll have DLC, but the retention on a game like that is incredible. I mean, it already sold nearly 20 million copies. So, so I think like, and maybe I'm having trouble really coming up with the words, but it's like the publishers are chasing the wrong thing if they're trying to get people to stay with the game, which is what a season and what DLC is trying to get you to do, is stay with a game.
Right.
And I think most are going about it the wrong way.
I would agree with
And
that.
there's probably multiple ways to do it.
I would agree with that. I mean, what is the point of player retention if not to encourage more of that initial purchase, right? One of the sort of downsides of this sort of like battle pass system is that, you know, maybe you're interested in one particular one content offering for a battle pass. You buy into that system or that season, and then you're out forever. You might never pick up the game again until there's another battle pass that interests you. And which, you know, this is something that I didn't even think to bring up until now is,
Yeah,
you know, how many gacha games and how many of these monetization structures, these monetization strategies are based around franchises. You know, you look at Fortnite, and a lot of these packs that come out are the Avengers or Batman, or, you know, even something like GBO2. Would GBO2 have the same player retention rate if it were Titanfall, for instance? You know, an original story without the backing of a 45-year franchise. You know,
yeah, that's a good point.
Same goes for like
because
Bleach.
I'm sometimes surprised.
Yeah.
With GBO2's retention, but I think you brought up a good point, and it's about that brand awareness.
Yeah. I think a lot of gachas rely on existing IP, existing franchises in order to continue to drive players that want to unlock things that are already out there.
Almost like, and I think this is what we're seeing, that if you have a big IP, a big franchise, it's gonna be a gacha loot box style game.
Yeah.
Like the Star Wars mobile games, when Disney, started releasing those, it's not what I would want to play. And Halo, how that came out and how that turned out. There was another recent game that was from a big, I forget. And then you look at what their store and all that, and it's like, everything's wrapped around this model.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting to see where this goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of there's a lot of work for developers to do in order to, I would say, save gaming from itself. Is that the monetization structures of modern gaming have almost cornered game development into a cycle of season passes and gachas and loot boxes, whatever you want to call that type of, you know, instant gratification versus a strong narrative structure, the types of games that you and I necessarily kind of grew up playing, right? You know, it used to be you sink $50 into a game and you get your 120 hours of play out of it because there's 120 hours of play to get out of it. But match play, you're only going to get that 5 to 10 minutes of play out of it. So when you're not in the death match, so to speak, what do you spend the rest of your time doing?
Yeah. And Ian brought up, I've been playing Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle for 7 years now, and there is definitely a pay to win aspect to it. So he's been playing for 7 years, even though there's a pay to win aspect, but he's able to get what he wants out of it. And Dragon Ball Z is a huge franchise.
Huge franchise there.
I mean, the pattern is there. Yeah.
And, I've fallen victim to that too. In the past, I've played both Marvel and Transformers-based games. There was a Transformers Legends sort of digital card game on the iPhone that I played for a while. And, oh man, you would not believe how many hours and probably about $25 worth of coins that I sunk into trying to unlock this Ghost of Starscream card that was available. And then now that game's not even available on the phone anymore. They sunset it,
Wow.
and the servers are
All
dead.
that.
All that work, and there's nothing to show for it. So,
Yeah, you
oh,
know
go ahead.
that that reminds me. There's a Power Rangers fighting game on mobile that's actually really good. Because it kind of uses a rock paper scissors, like you read the character's moves and you can like dash around and then press the button. It's really good, but it's that same sort of thing where it even had where I can pay $5 a month to get extra currency, so then I can try to randomly get the Power Rangers I want to get.
Yeah.
I will say though, and I probably like you put maybe $25 because there was a couple months that I think I did that $5 a month thing, and it had gameplay. It's the gameplay is what kept me going because it was like a fighting game on mobile. Not and even though it was touchscreen, you were still like, oh, sorry, I gotta grab that.
Yeah, you still had like moves that you
always
could
happens.
perform and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So now I've set the mood. It's almost like a Halloween themed episode. I don't know what's up with this light. It's plugged in right into the charger.
Well, you know what? Now we kind of match. We both have this purple glow going on about us. I can probably
Yeah.
turn down my light as well.
Yeah, no, I'm glad this kind of happened. It kind of showed me how much my main light was washing out the glow I was trying to do there. So,
but yeah,
well, cool.
Again, I think that that's where we've kind of landed. Is like as long as gameplay comes first, gacha is acceptable, if not fun for some people, and as long as you're not required to invest money into it. I think people just don't like getting ripped off. Is if you dump money into something, you don't want to feel like you could have unlocked it naturally, but then if you are dumping time into it, and there's kind of an old saying where it's like, okay, everyone has a little bit of time, a little bit of talent, and a little bit of money. Well, you can't spend all three because not necessarily, you may have more talent, but someone else has more money. As long as you can spend those three things in equal measure in a game, I think that you're going to be all right. If you're talented at a game and you can unlock something versus if you are not talented, but you have the extra capital to spend $5 on DLC, I think that everyone is kind of pleased, right?
Yeah, I'd almost even say, real quick, like with Halo, some people are scared that they're going to get ridiculous with the armor types, but some people might like that. And I think it would be interesting if they, like, let's say they went all out with the interesting and weird armor that you can get. But let's say there's also a toggle that people that aren't buying the stuff or wearing the stuff, they don't want to see it while they're playing, and you can turn off the toggle and those things don't appear. But then people that want to enjoy the experience of just seeing the armor, buying the armor, they can buy it, wear it, everything, and be all crazy and get their own experience out of it. But both players will, at the end of the day, have the same gameplay experience.
Yeah, they'll have the same level of enjoyment from it.
It's like you can. I feel like there's a way that you can. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I think the developers or publishers are. Sorry, the dogs are yelling. The developers and publishers are going halfway to make money.
Yeah.
Right. It's like we want to add all this content for people to buy, but we can't make it too wild. Why not just go all the way and make that an optional visual feature?
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to make sure that they're getting money from the whales or the people that want to support, or not that they want, but want to spend the money, but allow people with the traditional experience to get that.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a solid answer for the gacha question. Well, with that, sounds like you need to let the pup outside. I need to go feed mine.
Family's got it, but no, yeah, it's about that time anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts on gacha and loot boxes and microtransactions and all of those things that make games both beautiful and frustrating to us all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this has been a pretty fun discussion, and it's given me a lot of a lot of things to think about, both not just in terms of video games, but also in terms of tabletop games and, like, you know, collectible card games. You see the same sort of marketing strategies happen. So it's interesting, you know, do you lean into that marketing strategy that is proving to be very successful, even though it kind of rubs you the wrong way, or do you try and innovate and do something different?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is very interesting. Yeah, I really like that we talked about this. I guess with as much as I like gaming, I love getting into these topics about development and stuff. You know?
Same here. Well, good deal. I will let you go for the evening, and I am going to say thank you to the chat for being so lively and hanging out with us this evening. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening and a great rest of the week. Adam, is there anything you wanted to share before we sign off for the evening?
No, but yeah, I guess for those not in the know, Steven and I will be live streaming tomorrow on Gundam Explained. So that will be fun. There's always something. Glad to have him back. That week without him, I didn't know what I was going to do. It worked out, but yeah, tomorrow should be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So yeah, tomorrow evening, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, 7:30 Central. Do tune in on the Gundam Explained podcast. I'm looking forward to getting back into Mobile Suit chatter.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you guys have a good night, and I will catch you later.